I move and think and behave with money now, because it's no longer just an employee mindset. I have the entrepreneur or the employer mindset. I also have the investor mindset of I'm going to make the money work for me versus me actually having to do the work.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur and Leaders Evolution, where we focus on things from skill set to mindset to help you get optimal in your peak performance and all the things in between that to help you on the journey of entrepreneurship or leadership, or both if you have it. So we have today a yummy treat for you in Q1. If you are watching this now, this is in Q1 when you need it the most. Y'all, I'm bringing you the stuff that you need in real time. We have Lorraine Millington, and she is a tax strategist, expert, and a wealth advisor for entrepreneurs, real estate investors, and corporate professionals. So you better tune up today. All right.
Listen up.
Welcome, Lorraine.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here with you.
It is good to see your face today.
Yes,
it's been a little while.
It's good to be seen.
I love catching up. It's good to be seen. Well, we're gonna jump on in for everybody because I tell people it's an hour of power.
Nice.
Let's get in. Let people know who you are. Please tell us about you. Yourself, sure. Your industry, your calling, and why you love it. Why you love what you do.
Sure. So hi everyone. Again, my name is Lorraine Millington. I'm a tax strategist. I'm an enrolled agent, and we may get a little bit into the specifics of what that actually means from the tax perspective, but just know it's one of the highest certification levels for tax preparation. I'm also an enrolled agent. I'm certified in neurolinguistic programming, so that's NLP. So I have a lot of different things going on. I'm a dog mom, if anybody cares about that. But so I have a lot of interest, a lot of skills, a lot of expertise, and I'm really excited to be here with everyone today because, as you mentioned, we're kind of in the heart of it in terms of what I like to say tax filing season, because if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're in leadership, if you're a business owner, tax season is technically all year round, right?
Yeah.
I think most of the time we focus on January to April as the height of the season, but that's just really the filing season. But one thing that I want people to take away is, if you're in business for yourself, even if you are working for an employer and receiving a W-2 and receiving a salary, your tax season, which is the whole year, is very important. And I'm sure we'll get into more of the specifics of what that means.
But yeah, break it down.
Yeah.
So that's what you do and that's who you are. But why do you love what you do? What brought you to this of all the industries and all the things?
Yeah. So I'm going to be real. I like money. And I think most people who are watching this, they also like money, right? But one thing that really drew me to the tax side or the tax portion of money is when I started to understand that really everything comes down to taxes. Fortunately, you pay taxes in life and in death, and I'm not going to go in that route. But really, when you start to understand how taxes can be used as a tool versus something that you kind of just do and get done, just be out of obligation, you really start to realize the power in what it achieves, and to be able to actually build wealth and also keep wealth. A lot of times, especially entrepreneurs and business owners, we're very much focused on making the money. But most times I find that people haven't been taught how to keep the money. And that's really where taxes come in, right? Understanding how to be able to utilize these things to your advantage. And so that's what really kind of ooh, let me get more in tune into what this is. And I really started to enjoy it. I do like puzzles and fixing problems and being able to make something out of nothing, right? And for most people, taxes are very confusing, and I enjoy helping people understand how to utilize it, understand it, what they say layman's terms, or just understand it from the standpoint of how can I use this? How can I best leverage this? Because it's already there, right? Why not be able to use it to our advantage? That's what we like to say the top 1% is, but the tax code is not just for the top 1%. It is for everyone, especially if you have someone on your team that is able to help show you that and help guide you in that direction. So that's really why I do what I do, and why I want to help more people be able to understand this for themselves as well.
Well, okay. So that I actually got a question off of that
Okay,
statement.
sure,
And
yes.
you mentioned letting it work for you, not against you.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what you don't know. So tell us
Right.
what we need to know as an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right? Or, not just all the categories, right? Anybody that's in business
Mm-hmm.
in that way or in leadership, what do we need to know that we don't know?
So, one thing that I want to start with, and maybe some people know this and maybe they don't, but I want people to understand the difference between someone who just prepares your taxes, like a tax preparer, right? Versus having someone who's actually strategizing and planning with you as it relates to your taxes and your overall finances. I think that's probably the key thing because a lot of the conversations that I have, people are like, oh, well, I've been doing my taxes and I owe every year. Or I do my taxes and then I don't really understand what's happening. Times, especially when you're in business, that's because you're taking your most times you're taking your information to the person who does your taxes, and that's exactly what they're doing. They are preparing them. They are making sure that whatever information that you have is being put into the tax return and then it's being filed. But that's not planning and that's not strategy, right? And so oftentimes a lot of people don't know what the difference is or that there was even a difference between the two.
Right,
I think
right.
oftentimes taxes are kind of put into this umbrella of like, yeah, everything falls under there when it actually doesn't, you know? And there's nothing wrong with having someone that just does your taxes. But in business, you really should have a strategy. You
Need a
really should
strategy.
be planning and analyzing and adjusting as you go on in business because especially as you're growing, your situation when you first start the business is not going to be the same when you're growing and making more money and expanding, right? So I think
Exactly.
that's a really key thing that I want people to kind of realize or even have an understanding of.
Yes. Okay. Very good. So you work with people carrying a lot of financial responsibility, right? Across
Right.
the here from starting, growing to scaling to seasoned. And so you have business owners, investors, families, building legacy, all types of people walking in for different reasons, right? So
Right.
what would be some of the foundational moves that help them keep more money and build wealth? So this is more
Yeah.
tax strategy, like you said, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would
I
be
love
some
that.
suggestions?
Yeah, I love that question. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is structure, right? And so when I say structure, there's a lot of information that's out there, right? In terms of different things when you're starting a business, what you should be doing in business. But often we aren't necessarily told about kind of the back end things, like things that to do on the foundational level. So when I say structure, depending on what type of business someone has, or what kind of industry that they're in, the type of entity that you have. And I don't want to get too technical, but in terms of oftentimes, it's kind of thrown out there to start an LLC, right? Just create an LLC and go do business. Or sometimes if you're in real estate, oh, go do a corporation or something like that because it saves you on taxes or, it does all of these things, right? But there's a lot of terms that are thrown out there. But oftentimes that might not be the right structure for what it is that you're doing. And I often tell people, like, don't overcomplicate your taxes, right? Like, you hear all of these different things, like, oh, do this and do that. But are you having the conversation with someone like a strategist or an advisor that says, or that is sitting down with you and saying, okay, tell me what it is that you're looking to do and what it is that you currently have right now, and then kind of structuring and adjusting things from there. So I just think from like the foundational piece, structuring yourself correctly is a way to now put yourself in position to succeed from a business standpoint. I think is probably one of the top things that I would say. And often what I see most people having to change or adjust down the line because they just don't know, right? And you mentioned in the beginning, like you don't know what you don't know. So this is not aimed to be like judgment or blame or anything like that. It's more of an enlightening of, hey, let's have those conversations or even just asking like what should I be doing from like how should I be as a business, right? Like you focus on what you're doing in business, whether you are offering services, selling products, whatever it is, that's your expertise. My expertise is helping frame you or position you correctly from a financial standpoint so that both of those can blend and work together for you.
Played nicely. So we're not
Yeah,
gonna do the wish, hope, and pray tactic of
right.
like run your business all year and be like, please, Lord, don't let
Yeah,
me have
please,
to
please,
pay like
please. Hope and a
$50,000 in
prayer.
tax. We're not
Just
going to do the
hope and a
wish, hope,
prayer.
and pray approach, right? Let's be tactical about it and make it a part of your strategy, is what it sounds. Get advisement. Okay, I like it. I like it. And I think part of that even goes to, some of the things that I work with and what I do, which is mindset and habits around, how you're handling your money and how you're handling your business.
Hmm.
So some people didn't grow up around like knowing you might should have a financial advisor to attack, like advisor, not just, someone that's doing your taxes
Hmm.
and things
Hmm.
of that nature. And I think some of that rubs off and plays an effect of how the business is actually being run in a
Absolutely.
lot of ways, right? I definitely see it a lot. So yeah,
Yeah.
I can relate on the backside of what you come in with. I can see that on the front side of what I'm dealing with mindset, habits, and performance.
And you make such a great point, because the mindset piece is, when we talk about foundation, that's also like one of the huge pieces
It
of
is.
like the financial foundation, right? Is how you're thinking about money, because then that affects how you behave with money, right? And so what you do in terms of helping people prepare to even take that step to maybe start a business or even grow their business, right? Like that's important. And then coupling that, or putting that in tandem, I think is the word, with okay, now the tactical piece of okay, now I'm ready. Now I know where I want to go and kind of how I want to do it. Help me structure this, or help me put this together in a way that then can then support me as I move forward. So that's a great
Exactly.
point.
Exactly. Yes, I 100% agree. One of the pillars of the framework is success habits, not just mindset, right? Like once you got your mind around it, out, are you going to do what you said, right? I think a part of success habits is you better have some financial strategy as a part of your business strategy if you want long-term
Right.
success, for
Right.
sure.
For sure. Yep.
So I got another, a little more on the personal side this time. So,
Hmm.
you've built authority in tax strategy and wealth planning. So I'm curious about you, like before the
Okay.
titles and those things, what did you internalize, early on about success, security, even money, right? And how
Right.
that shaped what you do and how you advise, entrepreneurs and investors, like the clients that you work with.
Nice. I like that question. One thing that I would say, when I was younger, right, in terms of understanding about money, I very much was someone who was trading time for money. Like when I
Hmm.
was younger, I didn't necessarily understand business yet. Growing up, I had like three jobs, right? In terms of like, just this is the way that I need to, or this is the way that I understood how to build wealth, right? Let me
Yep.
get this job and that job and keep busy and keep income, or keep money coming in, not understanding that that really wasn't the best way to structure what I was doing, right? And so a lot of times, especially when we within a certain place in our lives, right, we think, okay, if we make more money, and this is more so from like an employee standpoint, right? And
Hmm.
that's kind of the mindset shift that I also needed to kind of adopt and really like sink into and develop, is the employee versus like the employer kind of mindset, right? There's nothing wrong with being an employee, but we have to know how to best leverage and utilize being an employee, because oftentimes, especially from a tax perspective, unfortunately employees are the ones that are paying the majority of the taxes in the country, right? So if we think about it, from there's trillions of dollars that's paid in taxes every year. Most of the time employees are paying more than half of that. So when I started to realize, like, okay, how do I actually make my money work for me, right? When I
Mm.
started to really understand that, because you get burned out with working all of these jobs and thinking that it's like kind of like that hamster wheel. Like you get on and you keep going and you're not going anywhere. You just keep going and going and going. And I'm at a point I was just like, okay, well, what actually am I doing? And then I had to think of, how do I make the money work for me? So then I started to get into real estate. I got my real estate license, started doing that, and I was like, okay, I understand now that assets actually help you to make your money work for me. And even from a family standpoint, my grandmother also was involved in real estate, so I saw that from a young age of, okay, you have a rental property or an investment property as an example, or this asset makes money for me without me having to do it. Now, there's obviously activities involved and things like that with a rental property, but the understanding from that age of, okay, I need to have enough money to be able to purchase assets.
Yes.
And I don't even necessarily need to have all of the money to be able to purchase the asset. I can
Yes.
use things like credit and like funding and things like that. And then that's going to help me make the money as well, because the mindset of I need to save up X amount of money to buy whatever it is, the opportunity cost that's being lost in between in the process of you trying to make the money is really kind of, we're hustling backwards, as some people like to say, right? And so all of these things help to shape how I move and think and behave with money now, because it's no longer just an employee mindset. I have the entrepreneur or the employer mindset. I also have the investor mindset of I'm going to make the money work for me versus me actually having to do the work. So yeah. So I hope that, kind of
Yeah.
give some shape in terms of how I think and move, because these are also things, as you go back to what you mentioned earlier about people not growing up with money, these are the things that we need to have more people see, like the opportunities and the options that are available, right? Because it looks different for everybody, but there is still an opportunity, or an option for everyone out there. So yeah.
Yes. I love what you said about shifting from employee to employer, right? Mindset. That is gold, right? That's gold. I see that. I'm sure you're seeing that.
Yep.
And I'm working with, entrepreneurs, corporate and real estate
Right.
investors, and I'm still
Right.
seeing that it takes the time for
Mm-hmm.
that shift to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even some are exposed to it, and it's like, but I can't get there,
Which is
to some degree.
yeah.
Yeah, that
There's
shift
always,
is
and
pivotal.
as you're working from a mindset perspective, there are limiting beliefs, right? Like there are stuck points that sometimes, unless they're brought to the awareness of the person, right, or unless they're ready, and we can have a whole conversation about this, but unless they're ready to actually come to, what's the word that I'm looking for, but kind of bring, again, I guess, bring that to their awareness, bring that to resolution for themselves, it's kind of going to stay in that back of the mind, like, oh, I wish I could do that. You're so great to be able, you could do it too, right? But we have to peel back those layers of what's actually kind of preventing someone from
So
doing things
true.
like that. And
I'm
some of it,
curious.
yeah.
You may not see this, or you may, but like that mindset, those habits, right, affect the business decisions that you make,
Absolutely.
how you're running the business, how you run your money, your risk
Absolutely.
level, all that. How do you see that, or I'm sure, how does that show up in taxes and tax
Yeah.
advisement when it's at the end of the year and all that's happened for the whole year? Like, what kind of things do you tend to see due to those limiting beliefs and habits?
What's interesting about that question is because what most people don't understand that they're doing is they think that utilizing things in the tax code is actually like illegal. Maybe illegal is not the right word, but like the mindset behind I can't do that. I don't know what's an example. Even just from a home office perspective, right? Understanding that there are ways to be able to capture expenses for things that are already there, but if the mindset is that's not available to me, or that's not something that I can do, that's going to prevent you from actually trusting and believing and actually absorbing the information that can help you from a business standpoint. So I don't know if that necessarily makes sense, but it's just what I see from the hesitation to make certain decisions from a business standpoint, that plays over to the tax perspective, because a lot of people don't know or don't believe that these are actually options from a tax perspective. And this is why I say, like, I help show people how to use the tax code to their advantage, because it's not something that comes natural for most people, which is understandable, right? Like, oh, you mean I can actually do that? Like, yes, this is a thing, and I'm showing you this because this is actually available to you. But the fear, oh, I don't want to get in trouble, or I don't want to do this wrong, or I don't want to, that's going to prevent a lot of people from taking that step or actually, again, using what's available to you, unless you have the proper guidance, unless you have someone who's showing you like, no, this is actually the path, and this is the way that you can grow and scale and keep more of your money so you can put that back into the business and, do whatever it is that you need to do. So that's typically what I see. People want to do it, but they're fearful of doing it or don't know how to do it, right? And that can keep a lot of people stuck, unfortunately.
And that's hitting the wallet too, is what it's
Right.
doing. So
Right.
what it sounds like is like people don't just make money decisions based on logic. They make them based on identity, pressure, and past conditioning is what I'm hearing right there.
Yep. And emotion, right? Like, and we know that a lot of like decisions are made based off of an emotion, right? Whether it's being motivated, like moving towards energy or moving away, right? Like if I'm motivated to do something, the decision that I'm going to make is I'm going forward. If I'm fearful of doing something, my decision is going to be I'm going to step back away from here, right? So the emotions that come along with whatever is occurring in that particular moment also drive decisions.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Boy, we overlap quite a bit.
This is good.
Completely different ways, right? One helps the other. So
but it all plays together. It all.
Mm-hmm. Let's get into some practical stuff,
Okay.
We're in Q1. So people have the whole year, if they hear this, to make some adjustments. And let's not repeat that, right? Like we're putting action in. So what are some practical things that we should be tracking, watching for, that we can do within the business? We could start it tomorrow, right? That would help us that when it's time to do those taxes.
Yeah.
And not just for tax purposes, but like you said, for business strategy. I know that's general across a lot of businesses, but if there's some general things that everyone should probably be doing, can you share some of those?
Sure. So I would say, especially starting in the beginning of the year, a lot of times this is the perfect time to look back into what has happened to then prepare for what's going to be coming. So when we're in the beginning of the year, we're typically setting goals and doing all those things. One thing that I would want people to pay attention to is where is the money coming from, right? So from like a cash flow perspective, not even, and we all know that there's a difference between like revenue, profit, and cash flow. In the beginning of the year, especially in this first month, one thing that I want people to start paying attention to, if they aren't already, is what is your cash flow looking like? What are you expecting to be bringing in every month from a cash flow perspective? What's going to be left over after you pay all your expenses and all of that? Because that's what you use to then plan. That's what you use to kind of determine like, okay, if I'm expecting to have a cash flow of $5,000 per month, but what does that actually tell me? Does that tell me my business is growing, that I might now need to hire more employees or hire more contractors to be able to sustain what's going on in the business? Does that mean that I need to then go out and get some more equipment or get something that's going to enhance the business? We can't spend until we know exactly what we have and what is actually going to be used for the operational side of the business. So having those numbers initially helps, because I can't tell you like how many times I'll be working with someone and they want tax strategy and I want to give them tax strategy, but I don't know what your numbers are looking like, right? Like, what are we planning for? Like, I can give you all of the strategies, but what is it that we're actually trying to do? Are we trying to make you more fundable so that you can go out and secure more money for the business or secure more investors? Obviously, yes, we want to pay less in taxes, but what is the ultimate goal? And without knowing what the numbers are, without tracking even just some of those things, again, cash flow, revenue, what is the profit? Then we can kind of get a little bit more into, okay, let's set up this healthcare plan. Let's make sure that we have a retirement plan in place. Let's make sure that we're paying employees correctly. Do we need to put anybody on payroll? Are people going to stay as a 1099? So like all of these different things that we're kind of wanting to factor in or start putting in place from a strategy standpoint, we need to know what the numbers look like.
Yes.
We don't want to have something in place and then now the business is cash strapped because we started this plan and we did this strategy and we went over here. But then now we have nothing left to actually grow the business or actually run the business.
That's so good.
And this is a perfect time to do it. Why? Because not only are we looking forward to what's going to be happening for the rest of the year, but what happened last year? Because now is the time where a lot of people are getting the numbers together to be able to file the tax return for 2025, right? Mm-hmm. So we have a good understanding of, okay, well, I didn't know I made that much money last year type of thing. Well, I'm tracking or I'm expecting to make the same and or more this year. Great. Let's start from now in terms of, all right, now that we're expecting to have this excess, or this is what we know is coming in, or we know that February is typically a slow month in our business, or March, or, whatever month applies to that. Maybe there are no slow months. Maybe we actually pick up more in the beginning. So let's plan that out accordingly so that if there is a little bit of I don't want to say downturn, but when it kind of slows down a little bit in someone's business, we actually have enough reserves for that. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of clients that I'm even working with right now at the beginning of the year where we're implementing new programs or new systems, whether it's for businesses that have employees. Maybe we're going to do an employee recognition program where you want to start off the year building good morale and retention and all of those things. Now we know how much is in reserves to be able to deploy to that. So we're still kind of in the healthcare space. I mean, most of that is typically done at the end of the year, but do we want to then start exploring other vendors or other options? So I guess I can go on and on, but these are the things I would say. Top would be revenue, profit, cash flow. Track those from now, because then that's going to kind of set the tone for the rest of the year.
That is gold, because a lot of people don't do it. And then the second part of that, it sounds like, then use that data to base the decisions if you have some wiggle room or what needs to happen in the business.
Right.
That should be a factor, because so many people are like, I'm going to hire somebody. Maybe the numbers don't support that.
And I would even say, like, the second part of that would be, especially in the time frame that we are right now, what happened last year? Because now you have that full year's worth of data to say, okay, well, I wasn't expecting to make X amount of money last year. Now I know that this was the excess. I didn't have a plan in place. And now I'm probably, not definitely, but probably going to have a certain amount of taxes to pay to the IRS or to the state because I didn't necessarily have that plan in place. So I think that the two parts of the question is, one, let's see what's happening for the rest of this year, right? So that we can kind of have an idea of what the reserves of what we have to work with, while coupling that with what happened last year to prevent or avoid that particular situation happening again if it didn't necessarily work in your favor.
That's some good stuff. You know how they say, know thyself, better know your business. To know your business, better know them numbers. Know those numbers. Yes. That's what I'm hearing. Yeah. Okay.
Numbers are very important.
For those that don't know, can you explain what is the difference between revenue, profit, and cash flow? Sure.
So revenue is what is the business actually generating in terms of income, right? Like I'll use a service-based business, right? If you are charging, I'm just going to use easy numbers. If you're charging $1,000 per person for your services and you have 30 customers coming in, now you have $30,000 of revenue that's coming in for your business, right? If you have to spend, again, I'm using easy numbers, $10,000 in terms of expenses in order to be able to not only generate that $30,000 in revenue, but keep operating the business, what's left after that, so the $30,000 minus the 10, that's $20,000. This is your profit for your business, right? Your income minus expenses, what's left over is typically your net profit. Cash flow is something where you can kind of predict might not be the best word, but cash flow is something that you are generally tracking that is coming in every month. If, for example, I'll use a rental property as an example, right? You have a rental property, the rent that you are collecting from a tenant, again, using easy numbers, is $1,000, right? You spend $500 on the mortgage, property taxes, and insurance, right? Let's just say that's $500. You now know, especially in this, using a rental property strategically in this example, you now know that you're going to have $500 of cash flow each time that you are receiving this payment, because you know what's coming in definitely is $1,000 from rent. You know, typically that $500 is going to cover those fixed costs of mortgage, real estate taxes, and insurance. So what's left over after that, what's going to continue to flow into your bank account or continue to flow into your business, is that $500. So that, I hope that helps to explain kind of the differences between the two, because then that now helps you plan. Because when we're talking about profit, that's not necessarily going to be the profit every month, right? Like that just happens to be what your net is for a particular time. But if you know, especially in a service-based business, if you're offering subscriptions, right, and you charge $1,000 per month for the subscription, and you have, again, 30 people who are subscribed to the subscription plan, you know $30,000 is coming in every month as cash flow, right? Minus your expenses, or whatever it is. So that's kind of the difference between the two.
Thank you for that. Just making sure we hit across the board of where people could be. So I want to break it down. Just
for sure. No, for sure. I think it's a great question, because in from a 10-foot, 6-foot view, whatever that saying is, they all look to be the same, right? Or they seem to be all very similar, and they do have some similarities, but they do mean very different things depending on what it is that you're tracking or looking to do. So no, it's a great question.
I'm trying to squeeze in, like I'm trying to get all the goodies here. So
all the sauce. Give all the sauce.
Let's all the sauce. Throw it on there. Let's see. For those that are doing well financially, right? They're scaling, or they're seasoned. Let's go to that side. What are some of the more common tax mistakes or missed opportunities that you see, particularly probably in that scaling, right? It's like they were in this bracket, now they're bumping up, and maybe they don't have the know-how or know of what they should be doing.
You know what's funny is that oftentimes, no, I shouldn't say often, but I have come across a number of times where people don't want to make more, because then the fear is that I have to pay more, right? Like that mindset of like, I want to grow the business. I'm in a position to grow the business. I'm actually growing it without me realizing how much it's growing, but I don't want to get too big, because the more that I make, the more that I have to pay in tax, right? And so I guess I don't know if it's a mistake versus understanding that actually the more that you make, the more like opportunities that we have to then do more things with strategy, right? Like we have more room to play with, if you will, right? And so I think that's sometimes the fear. We sometimes hear the saying that people are afraid of success, or there's a fear of being successful. Like that's kind of where that mindset lies a little bit. Like I don't want to make more money, because then I'm going to have to pay more taxes, and not necessarily knowing how to better utilize this excess that you're making in the business so that you aren't paying as much, or being able to throw it into other things that you can best leverage. That's sometimes a common mistake, I guess I would say.
So very true.
Yeah.
And with some of the clients that I work with, I see that, and I would say part of that is there's a fear of success. There's also a settling mindset and behavior that comes. It's right. I'm comfortable here. Like I'm good. Things are getting paid, and not that you always got to push for more all the time, but then you should be growing and doing a thing, or there's another purpose in you, and you're not doing it because you're comfortable here. It's like it feels good. I know what to expect. It will also that process
for sure
for you, which will show up at your door with the settling as well. So that's another little thing that you'll we see that too.
And I like what you said about the being called for another purpose. I think that I would love to be able to kind of lean into that a little bit more, right? Because that's really what it is. Like we're put in certain positions to be able to do certain things. And if we are hesitant or holding ourselves back from doing that because of a fear of success or fear of just kind of being comfortable or not wanting to do too much for a fear of what's on that other side of that, right? Like that can it can stop a lot of people from doing what they're meant to do. So I really liked that point.
Yes. And there was something you said, oh, that was so good. We should rewind. But that was good. Repeat that. It was you said
What
something to
was it?
the
I don't
effect
remember.
of actually like people want to stop here because they think making more is gonna be damaging. But you said actually making more could do what for them?
It could actually help. It can open up more doors. Let me even just say it that way,
That
right?
part.
It can definitely open more doors. Now, I'm not saying that. Well, I am saying that yes. When we make more, we can do a little bit more, right? Strategically, though, I'm not saying that just go ahead and make more and hope for the best. This is where strategy and planning come in ahead of time, not
Yes.
not March or April 10th when you're like, oh well, I made more. What are these open door opportunities? No, no, no. That was supposed to happen last year, right? So if the goal, especially in the beginning of the year right now, if the goal is okay, I want to make more, I'm going to make more. Not even I want to. I'm going to make more this year, and I know I want to be strategically positioned and set up for things. Then yes, make the money and also have a strategy on top of that, right? So that's what I would say. Let's not be very reactive, and I think I've said this before in terms of being proactive versus reactive. Being proactive is kind of getting ahead of things, right? Like starting from now to kind of strategize and plan and analyze what's going on. Being reactive, which again, sometimes some people don't necessarily know what they don't know, like we've said before. But being reactive is kind of coming into filing season, like, oh well, this happened, help me,
We
kind
hope
of
and
thing.
pray.
Hope and a prayer, hope and a prayer. So we want to really work especially in this year of being more proactive versus reactive is probably
Yes.
what I would want to kind of leave people with.
Well, you don't know what you don't know, but now you know
Now
because she
you
told
know.
you. So before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with us? Things you have going on?
I really enjoyed this conversation
Me too.
today. I have a few things coming. So I did just release my first book
Woo-hoo.
last year called The Money Lab. And it's really titled A Money Lab, a blueprint for building wealth, reclaiming power, and redefining the game. And so a lot of what we talked about today kind of is highlighted in the book as well, because ultimately the purpose of the book is to help people to start creating that shift in terms of how we're thinking about money, because like we mentioned, that then affects how we behave with money, right? So for those who are looking to take that first step, or the kind of hearing maybe this information for the first time about strategy with taxes, like what does that even mean? That's a good place to start in terms of kind of understanding the mindset shift and kind of the behavioral shift that we want to start moving towards as it relates to, again, not just taxes but just money and finances in general. And yeah, like, and I offer free consultations to folks who, especially when we're in the height of filing season, to start having these conversations. Fortunately, there's going to be a lot of, I don't want to say rude awakenings, but there's going to be a lot of oh, I wasn't expecting those, like, those type of reactions that are coming up. So I certainly just welcome people to start having the conversation. You can book a free consultation on my website, ellenandtax.com. And yeah, let's start off and continue on the right foot to getting you where you want to be and where you're likely already going, just with more strategy, I would say.
Yes, yes, yes. And tell us about the resource that they will be dropping that in the description.
Yes.
Y'all get it
Yes.
today.
So to help people start getting on the path to getting organized and kind of understanding what they should be tracking, what they should be looking at, I'm offering a free quarterly tax checklist for entrepreneurs. So this will give you kind of a starting point of what you should be looking at, kind of what you should be tracking, what you should be paying attention to during the year. And it also includes a couple of questions to give you some like aha moments, like, am I doing that? Should I be doing this? Now that I know that this is happening, who can I talk to about these things? So all of that is included in the checklist, and it's free. So I certainly welcome you to take advantage of that, and start kind of getting things in order.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lorraine. It's so nice to see
Yes.
your face again.
Thank
But
you.
we
You
know each
too.
other from we both attended the NLP, so we're both certified
Right.
in that at a mastery level. We both are now, but that is where we met, and she is a beautiful soul as well as an expert, right, in
Thank you
what
so
she
much.
does. So thank you for showing up and
I appreciate
share
it.
your knowledge with the community.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you soon.